This video covers chain stitch binding. It is shown which materials are needed and how to carry out the process. The following materials are needed: sections, stitching thread, one straight and one circular needle, a pair of scissors, a board, a weight, and wooden sticks. The board is placed as support at the edge of the table. The layers are placed in the correct order, with the last layer facing upwards next to the board. When stitching, we will start with the last layer. It is placed flush against the edge of the board, opened in the middle and fixed with a weight. The stitching thread is fixed onto the straight needle. The thread is guided from the outside into position and out again through the nearest hole. The thread is guided back into position through the same hole, but is not pulled through completely. This creates a small loop. Wooden sticks can prevent the thread from being pulled through. This is also done with the other holes, until the thread at the other end comes out again. The next layer is placed on the previous one. The thread is guided into the new layer and out again at the next hole. The wooden stick is removed. The thread is pulled through the loop of the lower layer and back through the hole into the upper layer. The same thing happens with all the other holes with a loop in the bottom layer. At the end, the thread is guided outwards again. This is how the thread runs in the first two layers. Now the thread is tightened. To do this, it must first be pulled within the first layer so that the loops tighten. Tightening should be done by pulling the thread one by one within the layer. The loop should not enclose the thread too tightly so that the thread can still be moved. Once all loops are closed, the thread is tightened in the second layer. Here too, pulling should be done one by one to avoid breaking the thread. If the thread has the right tension, it will not. The next layer is placed. The straight needle is exchanged with the circular needle. The thread is guided into position at the kettle stitch and out again at the next hole. Now the thread between the first two layers is looped around itself and then guided back to the top layer. This is repeated for all holes. After wrapping around the kettle stitch, the next layer is placed and stitched in the same way. At the end of the last layer, the thread is knotted at the kettle stitch and cut off. By looping the stitching thread around itself, a chain is formed at the end, which is why this type of stitching is known as chain stitching. In chain stitching, the individual layers are joined by interlacing the stitching thread with itself. There are no sewing supports.